Yes, love's a secret weapon. Yeah!
Hi, I'm Donna Loren.
And I'm Dr. Adam Gerace.
And you are listening to Love's a Secret Weapon podcast.
Well, Love's a Secret Weapon community, do we have a treat for you with our next fan guest who has an insider's take on the newspaper, TV, and movie businesses. Our guest name is David Linck, and David has lived quite a few lives in the entertainment industry. He's worked for the Los Angeles Times, where he started as a copy editor before rising up the ranks. He's been the editor of a movie theatre trade magazine, an executive producer at CNN, produced documentaries for Lifetime Network, including on people I know Donna is a big fan of. He was also the West Coast producer at MTV, and the list goes on. For over 30 years, David was unit publicist for over 75, that's right, count them, feature films. Are you ready for stories? I hope David is ready to tell stories, because I and Donna are ready to hear stories. So Love's the Secret Weapon community. Please welcome David Linck. How are you today, Dave?
Oh, beautiful. Thank you. Wonderful introduction. Thank you, Adam.
Hello,
Donna.
David.
Donna, Loren, how are you?
Nice to hear you. Nice to meet you virtually.
Nice to meet you as well.
How are you? How's your day going?
You know, it's a beautiful day here, and my wife and I just returned from London and Paris, where it was gorgeous over there. So
okay.
we are riding the wild surf, Donna.
Lovely. Enjoying life. Fantastic.
Of course. And now, are you in Arizona, if I'm correct?
I'm in Arizona, and Adam's in Australia. And you are in where, California?
I'm in Oregon. I'm in Salem, Oregon.
Okay.
Salem, Oregon is the Goldilocks of Oregon. It's not Portland. It's not Eugene. It's just right.
Just right. Okay. Well, that's where the roses grow, right?
A lot of roses. The Rose City, Portland.
Mm-hmm.
And but I lived in Southern California all my life, and in Los Angeles because I was part of the industry, as you are, and found a second home there, and then I just retired up here.
Well, David, it's so wonderful that you've joined us and you're on Love's a Secret Weapon podcast. I think I know that Dr. Adam has done a lot of research, so I'm going to turn it over to him, and I'm just going to blend when I feel it's appropriate. Okay.
Well, that's fine. And of course, you know, I have some very pertinent questions for you.
Okay.
Later.
Well, I hope there's no proposals, because I'm all ready to say I do.
We'll keep it strictly professional this time.
All right.
In fact, I was driving home today, and I saw 3 deer right next to my house, and I go, it's springtime in Oregon.
Well, that's so hopeful. I have to say that, you know, the environment is at the top of my list of concerns. And when I hear that nature is thriving somewhere on the planet, it makes me so happy.
Well, you know, Donna, I think Oregon takes a lot of care with its, with its environment, and it is beautiful here. I don't see trash along the highways. I see people taking care of their properties and yards, because so much of Oregon is farmland and wineries, actually. In fact, in the Willamette Valley where I live, there's 770 wineries. Hey.
Whoa!
Oh, wow.
Delicious. Well, move over. I'm there. No.
There we go.
No, I love to taste wine in a thimble. I'm a real teetotaler, but I love to hear that the vineyards are ripe and ready, and I'm sure Dr. Adam would love a tour, because you're still engaging, right?
I was going to say, what are you implying, Donna? But yes, I would. Very much so.
I'm also a teetotaler, but my wife loves wine, and so I just follow her lead.
Well, you know, whomever takes the leap into the bottle, you know, you can always, of course, with your beloved, have a taste just, you know, from a kiss, right?
There we go. Or we just pass the thimble.
Pass the thimble, exactly. I must say.
Oh, excuse me, Dr. Adam, but, I'm a huge fan of roses. And so, David, you were saying that Oregon, or actually, isn't it Ashland, Oregon, that what's his Jackson Perkins is located there. I've ordered many roses from them.
I believe so. Donna, Portland calls itself the Rose City, but I believe a lot of the growth is in the southern part of the state in Ashland and Medford. Now, here's a note. My paternal grandfather was an award-winning rose creator.
Ooh.
He was what they called a hybridist, and he would make hybrids, and they were beautiful roses, colors you've never imagined.
Well, I
And
know I'm a huge fan of David Austin. That he's an English grower. Adam, are you in this scope? Because I know you love the garden as well.
We love the garden, absolutely. I'm so impressed with that, David, because we used to have quite a few rose bushes at our last house. We don't at the moment here. We don't really have the room for them with all the other stuff we've got going on, but certainly there is a park in the city that I go walk with my dog Lucy quite regularly, and there are beautiful rose gardens there. So I think there's nothing better than a beautiful smelling rose that's a beautiful color. It's a real art, I think, what your family was doing.
So wait a minute.
Funny.
So is your grandfather's name on one of the roses?
I believe he has several. One off the top of my head was called the Helen Trauble Rose. His name
I
is
know that rose.
He is Fred G. Ellis. He was based in Riverside, California.
Wow.
and he worked for the movie industry.
Right.
Before he retired and became a rose fancier.
Well, I think roses last longer than no. I would say the films that are the classics last a long time, but they still need some care. So do the roses. I don't want to go off on a huge tangent, but I have to say that one time for Mother's Day, I went to the Huntington Library and walked through the first bloom of roses. And, some of their roses are dated into 1700s.
Really?
Yeah.
I just, it's such a hidden world, and then when you become part of it, you see how international the rose community is. Really.
And then another just, I have to tell you, I used to have a white cockatoo, and I used to call her Albie, and I named her for the Albion rose, which is the white rose that was first discovered in France. So I'm a real fan, and so please proceed if we want to step out of the garden or stay in the garden. Why not?
Well, I had something to say. Did you sing to her "What's It All About, Albie"?
I would prefer that. Oh no, I love Alfie as well. That's the name of my grandson.
I played on that. But was that in Hawaii when you had the cockatoo?
Actually, no. It was before, and that would be a much longer story. But I think we should move on.
Okay. Sure. There's so much to talk about. Let's go.
We can break it down. Well, we're actually going to start in a place that Donna also has a connection to, given her husband Jared is originally from Canada. But you grew up in Ontario, Dave. Is that right?
I'm Ontario, California.
Oh, so I've completely mistaken that one. But we've put in that's all okay. So
you're not the first. You're not the first, and you will not be the last.
So that's good.
I have to tell you, Adam, the town of Ontario was actually developed and formed by two brothers from Ontario, Canada, hence the name.
Right.
And they went on to Australia, and they created another developed community there in the early 1900s.
Wow, isn't that crazy? And I'm just surprised they didn't stick new in front of Ontario when they came to California, because that tends to be a very American thing to do. Tell us about your early life and how you decided to go into journalism, and as well as the music that you engaged in early on.
Well, I'd be happy to. I'm one of those rare creatures. I'm a native Californian. And my dad was the postmaster. My mom was a professional artist in oils and acrylics and watercolors. And I grew up with a twin brother, and he and I were into music immediately. But before we got into music, we were into the Mickey Mouse Club, and that's where we saw Donna Loren.
Oh my goodness.
And I have to tell you, Donna, I remember vividly your first appearance on Mickey Mouse Club, and telling me that the gun was not loaded. And I remember thinking I was taken by you, and you had such a great sort of a catchy growl that you would turn on in your voice, and I'm going, boy, I've never seen a kid do that. I was just kind of blown away, and I think the talent on the screen with you, they were kind of blown away too by you.
Oh, Miss Steffi was her name. Through the West she won her fame, being handy with guns, but she drove the men insane, 'cause she'd whip out her pistols and shoot most any guy, then sing out the lullaby. I didn't know the gun was loaded, and I'm so sorry, my friend. I didn't know the gun was loaded, and I'll never, never do it again.
Howdy, Effie. Effie!
But Sheriff! Now one night she made a slip, shot the sheriff in the hip, so the law took a hand and made Effie take the stand, and she pled, oh, your honor, I know you'll turn me loose when you hear my one excuse. I didn't know the gun was loaded, and I'm so sorry, my friend. I didn't know the gun was loaded, and I'll never, never do it again.
Jury, have you reached a verdict?
We have, Your Honor. We find the defendant not guilty. Yes, the jury all agreed that Miss Linck should be freed, but the sheriff, Jellop's wife, was indignant, yes indeed. So she borrowed a pistol and shot that village bell, and sang as Miss Effie fell. I didn't know the gun was loaded, and I'm so sorry, my friend. I didn't know the gun was loaded, and I'll never, never do it again. I didn't know the gun was loaded, and I'm so sorry, my friend. I didn't know the gun was loaded, and I'll never, never do it. She'll never, never do it. I'll never do it again.
Well,
Um,
we really, oh yeah, Annette especially. That's when she and I first met, and then we continued working, through the Beach Party movies.
right.
And yeah, she always, of course, she was a great ballerina. She was a terrific dancer. But yeah, I remember when I was 10 years old, and she sent me a Christmas card, and she said, I wish I could sing like you. Even,
Oh,
at such a young age, that was before teen years.
absolutely. Well, I don't want to sidetrack on that because I'd love to come back to that, but I'll give you my short form.
Sure.
I was in bands from 13 on. I was the lead singer. My brother
Oh,
was a noted guitar player who later became a kind of a famous bass player. Actually, he played with
really?
Reeves Gabrels and Reeves. I just saw him last night in The Cure here. I was his guest.
Oh,
He's in the band The Cure, the British band. Reeves is mostly known for being David Bowie's guitar player from 1987 through the 90s, and he did the Tin Machine Project with David as well as many of his albums such as Earthling. And then Reeves joined The Cure and with Robert Smith. And,
Yeah.
I'm amazed with The Cure because they just sold out the Hollywood Bowl 3 nights in a row, Donna.
yes, I think the classics, from the 70s, 80s, all of the retro fans are so supportive, and the Hollywood Bowl is a great venue for that. I saw Tom Jones there not that long ago, and
What a talent.
absolutely, yep.
Well, talent will out. I mean, if you have talent, you make it through, a very long career because there's nothing, you can't create talent. It has to be there. Correct? And
Okay,
I had
I
a question.
agree.
I had a question for Donna right here.
Mm.
Donna, you came from Massachusetts, correct?
Yes, Newton near Boston or in
I know.
Boston.
I know it well. How did you rise so fast, so far as a child performer? And second part of this question, how'd you get to California?
Mm.
Ooh,
That's
okay. Well, we're gonna do a weave and a
Okay.
here.
Am I
We're
getting
gonna
too
be
far ahead?
not
Okay.
at all. This is a lovely conversation, darling, and we'll just weave our thoughts in and out as though we're sitting across the table. Okay, Dr. Adam?
absolutely, please.
I've kind of told my story. I'm reading my memoir as of how many 60 plus episodes ago.
Yeah.
So I was born in Newton, and it was kind of a tragic situation for my mother because the biological father that abandoned her and rejected her, um, you know, uh, was located there. And within about, I think it was 5 weeks, uh, she was put on a plane with me and sent back to California where her family was.
Really?
And
Okay.
and then lost all contact. So I never, the only time that I know, because my mother told me many, many, many decades later, finally, that he came in to see me at the hospital before he told her goodbye. And I know he and I made eye contact, even though I was probably hours old or whatever. But I never had an ill feeling toward him ever. Of course, I didn't
Good.
know that about this story until I was almost 50 years old. That's the from Boston from the East Coast to the West Coast. And then I have to tell you, and I've probably told this on the podcast, that through my memoir, I tell the story that the day that I was filming the Mickey Mouse Club, I turned 10. That was on my birthday.
Mm.
And on the way to Burbank, I had to stop at the Board of Education downtown LA and be weighed in, and my height had to be recorded. And then I got my Social Security number. And so I could work, and was all legitimate and whatever. And many years later, when I finally confronted my mother, because I found out vicariously that the man who raised me was not my father. Gosh, this goes into so much depth, but that was the day on my 10th birthday was the day that whatever nominal child my mother sued this biological father for ended on the day that I began earning money.
Mm. Mm.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
At,
Just
at 10.
coincidentally.
Oh, thank you, Donna Zucker from Boston. That was wonderful. And now, step right up.
Step right up.
That's your hat.
That's your hat.
What a hat.
What a hat.
Here's your ears.
Here's your ears.
Reach right out.
Reach right out.
Time is here.
Time is here.
You're an honorary Musketeer.
So, was this your first television appearance as well?
Actually, well, I would say nationwide,
Mm.
yes.
Mm.
In Los Angeles, there were these amateur contests that were televised, and one was the Al Jarvis show, and one was
Mm.
Stardom, and
Yeah, Rocket to Stardom.
yeah. So I did have some experience behind the camera, but this was the first filmed event. The others were live.
Yeah, and this is kind of where that was probably a big one, and then I think, as Donna's spoken about before, there were some years in between, of course, before signing with Dr Pepper, where all children at that age in the entertainment industry are sometimes in a difficult age of those late childhood, early teen years before, of course, she did a whole lot of recording, but signed with Dr Pepper in 1963, which is coming up to that 60 years this year.
Oh boy.
For those who think young, and I think Donna Loren thinks young.
Yes.
I really feel like, if you put yourself on a number, that you're limiting yourself. So, let's just be ageless and healthy and happy, as I hear that you are, David. And when we started, you said that you and your wife just came back from a trip to Europe, and that just sounds so romantic.
Oh, it was wonderful, and she had never been. And on top of that, we met my best friend from high school over there, whose daughter is vice president of Dior.
Oh my goodness!
And
wow.
She's basically my niece, and she had just had a baby with her husband, and we got to have the extra credit of seeing them there and their beautiful life inside of Paris. It was a nice trip.
That sounds glorious, David. Wow.
But I totally agree about aging now, because it is just a number, and we're here for such a short time that I think everybody should just enjoy their situation as much as they can and make the most of it and be kind to everybody.
Thank you.
It pretty much comes down to that, doesn't it?
That is what life is all about. The conflicts, Dr. Adam and I have worked, tirelessly on my memoir, and it's because he's in psychology and I needed some terms of telling my story that was revealed to me so late in life. And, you think about the paralysis that so many people are experiencing, that, they just feel powerless. And of course, I'm a true believer in that, the energy is shifting, but for at least the last 5,000 or 6,000 years, that we've been living under patriarchal dominance and conquering and war. And yes, there's been, these beautiful windows where there's tremendous creativity. But, it's a timelessness that we are evolving into, that you're describing, living in joy, and not just joy for the human race, but reverence for all life.
Absolutely. And also equality for everything.
Yes. Gender equality.
Human beings and animals. And let's have respect for this planet, and let's stop a hierarchy and have just an equality.
Yes.
Well, here. You have my vote.
It's easy. It's easy, right?
It is absolutely fundamental and such an important time. But as Donna was kind of saying, when we worked on the memoir, that was almost like an interviewing process, or not so much an interviewing, but asking of questions and asking of curious questions, and seeing what came up. And Dave, you'd probably relate to this because you studied journalism, and
I tell you, being an Aquarian, I'm interested in other people.
Oh.
And how other people lead lives, and I think that is why I'm so interested in film. Because films tell stories of other people's lives, and how they view and how they act in their lives. I think that attracted me. I certainly enjoyed performing as a rock and roller, and I enjoyed being on stage and commanding an audience and being with my brother. But I peeled off. As he continued, I peeled off into a more professional area when I went to San Diego State, and I finished there as a journalism and film major, double major. And I lucked into my first job at the Los Angeles Times, because you go to San Diego State, you're usually not hired there unless it's nepotism. And I'm just telling the truth. And I was lucky enough to keep focused and rise there. And I know that I did well there because not only did I work really hard, I was very friendly to everybody. very open.
Mm.
And that brings a lot to you. If you say hello first, you're in charge, right?
I think that's really true. And doing that, because so many people don't really know how to do that. You walk down the street, you smile at someone, and sometimes they get a bit taken aback before they realize this is a good thing. Albeit, I have to say, when you have a dog with you, that certainly helps open people up pretty quickly.
Well, the connection, being a
Yeah.
performer, as
Yeah.
Donna knows, the connection is very important. But
Mm.
do you guys notice that when you walk on the streets of New York City, people look you in the eye where they don't elsewhere? There's something
Interesting.
about New York City. There's a
Mm.
directness in New York City, and it's never never a negative thing. It's
Mm.
just, who are you? Hi,
It's a
I'm me.
magnet. Yeah, I think it's a magnetism of, of energy that's being shared because how many millions of people are in New
Mm.
York. I recall, I'm not sure how long ago, maybe 15 years ago or so, I was walking, in Manhattan, and I was questioning my husband, about something, and I saw a man at a corner, and so I just, because we didn't have the answer, so I said, I just asked him, about a question, and he looked at me and he said, and I said, we're from Hawaii, because that's where we were living at the time. And he said,
Uh,
oh, I was born in Hawaii. I mean, what,
wow.
what are the chances? But, energetically, we were magnetized together.
Mm.
And it was such a friendly, occasion that gave us actually a wonderful memory and wonderful experience. So, yeah, I just think it comes from you. And I have to say, Dr. Adam, you don't need a dog.
Thank you.
But
Yeah.
I'm sure Lucy has her own magnet.
Yes, well, absolutely. She loves people. She loves other dogs, and so it's just a good experience. I think we've spoken about this before. Being in a neighborhood that you know people, and it's just a cool experience. And before, we used to have. Because there were some stables a few streets away. They're still there, but there's not a running track anymore because they turned it into a baseball pitch for the young kids. It's actually quite a big baseball pitch for all over the city. But we used to have horses running in the morning, so we'd go watch the horses on their morning run, and sometimes you'd look out your window and just see them walking down the street to the park. So that was quite
how
quite
charming.
an experience. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, we're getting. I know we're getting away from your
So,
story, David. But at the LA Times, tell us what were newspapers like at this time? Was this again, we don't want to date it, but was this the 70s, the 80s at the time you were there?
This was I joined them in 1978.
Mm-hmm.
So there were no computers. They were just toying with the very first computer system called a Coyote. And it was very, very primitive. And so it was all desks full of paper and manual typewriters and people scurrying about. It's just like you think it was, in the front page. That movie, The Front Page, which was based on a Broadway play.
Yeah, great film.
Just a lot of activity, and a lot of hard-boiled old guys were still there. And I had the quintessential newspaper experience there, and I enjoyed it, but they called it the Velvet Coffin, and for a good reason. The Velvet Coffin.
Okay.
And that is, you'll stay there until you die, very comfortably. And I wanted to move on quickly, and I, as you know, Donna, you put out your vibe, and you attract your tribe, right? I just made that up. Hey, wait a minute. You
I
put
love
out your
that.
vibe, and you attract your tribe. I like that.
You put that on a
Anyway.
T-shirt and walk down Portland.
Money.
No, to get the message out, don't you? I mean, you can
there we
wear an
go.
overshirt
Sure.
and let it peek out, and then someone will say, "What does your shirt say?"
But I could sell that to Pepsi.
Well, you don't have to turn it into moolah. You can just do it as a message. Be a crusader. Join the pilgrimage.
We also don't
here's the
speak
thing.
about Pepsi here, I'm just saying. I'm joking.
No, but those who worship money are in for a very sad life. Don't you think?
You got that right.
You see it all the time, and I've worked with all of them, as you know.
Well, it's a necessity, but it's when it gets into a non-sharing kind of situation, that's when it's corrupt.
Well, also there was a fantastic line in the movie Wall Street, and that is, how many yachts can you water ski behind?
Mm-hmm.
In other words, how much do you have to have? My wife just showed me Ben Affleck's new house. It's, it has 24 bathrooms. Why? Why do you? It's 64,000 square feet,
Well, maybe he has
$128
a lot of.
million dollars.
He probably has a lot of friends.
I don't know. I work with Ben Affleck. Perhaps he does. Perhaps he doesn't.
Hey, Dave,
Anyway,
can I just veer off?
yeah.
And have you seen the new film Air?
Yes, I loved it actually.
I loved it too. Did you see it, Dr. Adam?
I haven't seen it yet, but my nephew is a huge basketball fan and he plays basketball several nights a week. So we will be going to see that sometime very soon.
Oh, it is fantastic. And I just love the Ben Affleck, Matt Damon reunion. And of course,
Right.
the story and Viola Davis. And it's just fantastic.
I worked with Viola, and she is the most intelligent actress I think I've ever worked with. Beautiful
Well,
soul.
to me,
Such a pro.
that film is a civil rights in the 21st century film about, as you were saying, equality. That Michael Jordan story is, as you say, quintessential story for equality.
Absolutely. And the whole gestalt around signing these guys to shoe contracts becomes like an allegory for human nature, really. And how are you going to attract a Michael Jordan? Well, you're as honest as you can be with him, and his mother and his father. And I just like that side of the story where Matt Damon's character decided just to be, flat out honest with him.
Oh, I agree.
And it worked out for everybody,
And it really opened up Ben Affleck's, the role that he played. Not to give it away, but it opened up his heart.
Right. He as the owner of Nike.
Yeah.
I think it kind of reminded him what it was all about. Don't you think?
So, well, yes, it helped him appreciate, but he realized that, it may be a what do you call that? A huge windfall for the company, but what would it take? It's like open your pockets if you see that big of a picture, and Matt Damon obviously did. So, he was able, to open up to it. But getting
you have
back
to spend
to his,
money to make money, though. You got to spend money to make money at the right
well,
time.
or if money is just energy, then you're putting your energy. You know what I mean? You put your energy out, and you get what you put in.
That's a great way That's a great way to think about money. Is that it's a form of energy that you've attracted to yourself and you've earned, and you use it as a tool, don't you?
Absolutely. And I've realized since the pandemic started that if I want something, I usually don't get that whatever I want. What I need is what I eventually get. It could be as simple as, going to the market and looking for vegetables and fruit. It's what you need is what's provided for you, and that's the intention you set.
Yeah, that's a very powerful lesson, I think, that so many of us have learned during the pandemic, and that kind of sitting with what is and really being in the present moment about what is and what is occurring. And I know
exactly.
When we're talking about money as well, just briefly, that whole idea, and psychology research supports this, that money in the service of you having experiences is what contributes to your well-being. Money
I love that.
is
Good,
not
good
the
point.
answer. Yeah,
very good point. And also, I think making the best of what you have is a lesson from COVID-19. Making the best, or making things better for what you have, because
I agree.
I don't know about you, but COVID didn't really change our lifestyle that much here.
That's great.
So we didn't go out to, we didn't get to go to our movies and restaurants, but we spent a lot of our time here together in retirement, and it did kind of put a kink into travel. But you're with the person you love, and you enjoy what you have, and you and your pets bond with you a little heavier, and your flowers bloom a little bigger, and
you realize that the time is so valuable that the racing around of trying to do this and do that, just to be and to go in and experience humility, I find is, I've said this before to a couple people on the podcast, but I realize the antithesis of greed and arrogance is humility. So here we had to humble ourselves. Although, that was the experience in this country and some other countries in the world, not everywhere. And it was just our experience that we needed to have, as the supposedly, I'll get political, the America, I'm going to put it the America that I grew up in and you grew up in, David, the America that we grew up in is not the America that we know today. And in neighborhoods, there's certain communities. You're apparently you're living in a community, David, that is is reminiscent and is preserved, to be a loving neighborhood and friendly and beautiful. That's similar to my experience as a young person, and accidentally where I am now. I'm surrounded by nature and blue skies, as you were describing. But we have a long way to go for this planet to recover from what has occurred since the mid-40s.
Where have all the flowers gone? Long time passing. Where have all the flowers gone? Long, long time ago. Where have all the flowers gone? The girls have them everyone. When will they ever learn? When will they ever learn? Where have all the young girls gone? Long time passing. Where have all the young girls gone? Long, long time ago. Where have all the young girls gone? We've chosen husbands, everyone. When will they ever learn? When will they ever learn? Where have all the young men gone? Long time passing. Where have all the young men gone? Long, long time ago. Where have all the young men gone? They're all in uniform. When will they ever learn? When will we ever learn? Where have all the flowers gone? Long time passing. Where have all the flowers gone? Long, long time ago. Where have all the flowers gone? The girls have picked them, everyone. When will
I agree, and I think there's going to be a bonding event coming. I don't know what that could be, but I think COVID-19 brought us a little closer together, believe it or not. And I think there might be a global situation that will kind of abolish, countries and make us all one people again.
I agree.
If we're going to survive. I don't want to get too heavy, but
No, I agree.
it has to happen. It's going to happen, and it'll make all of this political stuff just blow away like
Well,
dandelion.
I think I love that. I think it's inevitable, and I'm going to sing you a little silly song that I
Please.
used to sing to my children and my grandchildren. The dandelions in the grass, they're yellow, then they're white. They're yellow and they're white. And then you blow with all your might, and then they have no hair.
I love that. Oh boy,
Isn't that sweet?
to be Donna Loren's kid. Can you imagine, Adam? To be Donna Loren's
Well, in some
child?
ways, I have felt like.
Yes, my darling boy.
But at the same time, I mean, Donna, you always you look amazing. You are so vibrant. I've been watching some of your YouTube stuff, and you're somebody who really, as Rario Speedwagon sings, you roll with the changes.
Well, sweetheart, I think the next opportunity we have, we should try. If you're down in my neck of the woods or I'm up in yours, we should definitely see each other and meet, because I think there's a real simpatico, don't you, Dr. Adam?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, this is just a great conversation, because I think you realize when you talk to people and you come together through music, in this case Donna's music, but realize how much people have at that fundamental level in common. And that's not everyone, of course, but in this case, certainly so. And what we were talking about, that idea even of the pandemic being something that brought people together. Yes, there was a lot of division as well, a lot of issues with that, but I think a common humanity did emerge, where we all realize that we're a lot more similar than we are different, and and I think this kind of talks to what we're speaking about, David, as you were saying, when you left a job because we did some research. One of my students did some research with retirees around the early time of the pandemic in Melbourne here, which was really locked down for a long time. So that whole idea of being able to travel was completely out of the picture for Victoria. It was just in Melbourne, it was just not possible. But what was found to sort of preserve people's well-being was what meaning they had in life. And I think in a roundabout way, you're talking about those early days of you deciding what did you want, and that kind of led you to go, hey, I'm sure you enjoyed the LA Times, for example, but you wanted to move on to things that perhaps had more meaning or suited your goals.
Well, absolutely. In fact, let me continue that just quickly, because that's just the beginning for me. When I was I had moved up to I was the financial desk assistant editor, and we had brought in a young guy. He was 10 years older than I, but a young man who had won the Pulitzer from the Boston Globe in the financial area. They gave him the film area to report on, and he didn't really know the studios, so he would come to me and I'd say, well, this guy's at Paramount, this woman's at Universal, they're in business with this person. Anyway, so we became pals, and he was offered the editorship of Box Office magazine, which was a long time organ for people who own movie theaters. It's a trade magazine. So I went with him and learned how to do a magazine, and what helped me is that I became a movie reviewer as well as a writer. And the movie reviewing is what got me the notice of every publicist at every studio. And I immediately became I was put onto everybody's list. And so, one moment I'm nothing at the LA Times, and now I'm somebody at Box Office. And from there, I was hired at CNN as the head of entertainment news.
So what was the first film that you reviewed?
I know the ones that you can, I don't know, the first ones, that's a good question, but I can't remember the first, but I know that the ones that still have my reviews online are films like E.T. and Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Oh, wow.
Things like that. And here's the thing, thank God I was right. What if I What have I done a review of E.T. saying, "Oh, this is terrible. What is Spielberg doing?"
You know,
I mean,
you
it's
really know yourself, David. You really know yourself. It sounds like you came from a family that was so grounded, and your mother sounds so creative. Your
oh,
father, you came from a family that you had a stable, stationary, kind of rich childhood, I believe. It sounds like that
you're,
nurtured you and
you're right
allowed
on.
you to be who you were from the get-go. And what a difference it makes when you have an environment where you can express yourself and not be judged and allow yourself to just blossom and bloom. You could have lived, you should be 300 years old
I
for
might be.
everything, for everything, for everything you've already accomplished.
Well, wait, as they say, there's more. Um,
I love
after
that.
after CNN, I was working 20-hour days. I was coming in at 5 in the morning and directing
Wow.
the news.
Yeah.
Cut in with my bureau chief being my talent. You talked about shaking your knees, and then I would go do all the stories of the day, and I would be up at night on the Mike Douglas talent show. I mean, a TV show, putting the
Mm,
talent on there,
mm,
etc. Anyway, I was lured away to do 2 television shows for a company that had a contract with ABC Hearst Television, which is now Lifetime. Donna, you'll love this. The host of one of my shows was Gloria Steinem,
Oh,
who is a wonderful woman
oh
and a
yeah.
mentor to me. And
Oh,
I,
she's a mentor?
she became a mentor during
wow,
that
that's
time.
tremendous.
She
So how much contact did you have with her?
6 months of she was a very honest, direct, beautiful person who's
She
wise
is.
beyond her years. And she was my contact with her, I was with her for 6 months, and I was basically writing questions because she was interviewing people for an hour a show. Walter Cronkite,
Mm.
Toni Morrison, Alice Walker, Julian Bond,
Oof.
fantastic people. And I would do a little research for her, and then she and I would discuss where she was going to go with these people, but she knew most of them.
Yeah, of
And
course.
the funny thing is that the other show we did at the same time was Helen Gurley Brown's show, which was based on Cosmopolitan magazine, and
Mm.
it was like working the other side of the street. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
She was much more.
So you were in New York with her?
I was actually. We flew Gloria out to Los Angeles, and we did a
Oh,
lot of our shooting in San Francisco's Fairmont Hotel.
I see.
Right.
Okay. Okay.
We would meet in New York, but most of it was done in Los Angeles, and all of Helen Gurley Brown's stuff was done in L.A. In her own way, she was just as fascinating as Gloria Steinem.
When we were
But
writing
Well,
years ago, we had a Revolution from Within as a regular companion, one of Gloria's books, and we would refer
mhm.
to that one quite often, Donna.
Oh, definitely. I am so happy that she is still around to
yeah,
witness and her incessant. I mean, she's a spiritual warrior and she never gives up. Amazing. I just adore her and respect her completely. And I'm just thrilled to speak to someone who spent so much valuable time with her.
oh, believe me, and I had a little crush on her too.
I
I,
bet.
I bet.
She was in love with and I think lived with for a long time, the pentathlete Rafer Johnson, who was black.
Mm, mm.
Wait a
And
minute. How, at what age? Because I know the only time she married, I think she was 63.
right,
And he
This
did
was
he
earlier.
die? He Her husband died after only what, 3 years?
Yeah, I don't think she married Rafer, but he died.
I know who you're talking about, Donna. That was Christian Bale's father that I think Gloria Steinem married quite late.
Oh, really? Did
Yeah.
she? Must have been in the 90s or something then. When you say when she was 63, that would be about right.
Yeah,
Late 90s.
yeah.
But she's just a guiding light for so many women. I can only imagine how she feels about this Supreme Court ruling. And,
Yeah.
we got a lot of work to do, as you say. A lot of work to do now.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of praying and praying for miracles, but holding the energy of exactly how you started this conversation, being in joy and seeing the blue skies, looking up at the heavens, and and smiling from your heart to all you encounter, making that eye contact. And no one feels like they're alone when you do that, even for a split second. There's a
Well,
connection.
it's a gift you're giving somebody you're passing on the street. And and I think another lesson I learned early on in life was that you treat, and I think most successful people do this, you treat the CEO and the guy
Mm,
cleaning up his office the
mm,
same way.
Yep, yep, yep,
And the
yep.
actors I worked with in films, quickly, after CNN and the Gloria Steinem shows, I became publicity manager at 20th Century Fox Pictures and did that for a couple of years to find out how to make films because I was planning to produce and write,
right.
which I also did.
Really?
I left after 2 years. I became a screenwriter and producer. I sold a movie to Vestron that didn't get made. I had one to Disney. The partner and I had sold that didn't get made.
Mm,
And that's when I found the unit publicity job in 1987, which is an old job. The studios had it. It's the publicist on set. It's the
mm,
publicist on location with the film as it shoots, whether that's in a soundstage in Los Angeles or out in the
Mm.
middle of nowhere, where
mm,
I've been many, many, many times. And I found my perfect job, Donna. As you know, when you're in the groove, like when you're at Shindig, when you're in the American International Pictures, it's like you can tell you're in your soft spot, as they say in baseball. You're in the groove, and you just go, right, and you just let it carry you along, and that's what I did for 75 movies, and I'm glad I did
mm,
it, and I'm glad also that I did not become a producer and screenwriter because I just think there was so much negative energy in that part of the business.
mm,
The
Mm.
closer I got,
mm.
the more negative I got, and
Mm.
I didn't want to be taken there.
Yes,
Mm.
So I'm much happier for what I chose to do.
absolutely. And
Mm.
with the unit publicist, because I know a lot of our listeners are going to be quite interested in this. So that's
Yeah.
ensuring that the production has enough, say, photography to do with the production and publicity material. Tell us about that, Dave.
Adam, you're right on, Dr. Adam. What I'm doing is this is the way I used to liken it. I'm the camp counselor, and I'm with your kid at camp, and you don't want to hear from me unless your kid breaks his leg. So you're trusting
A
me to
good way
take
of
care
putting
of
it.
your child.
Mm,
You're trusting me to take care of your child and have that child have a good time. And what I'm doing is I'm getting all the publicity materials started for you.
mm,
The behind the scenes video, which is called EPK,
mm,
Electronic Press Kit. It's a big part of it, or was.
mm,
I write the production notes later at the end of the thing. I take care of all the mayors and congressmen and senators who want to visit my set. I take care of the whims of my star. If Ben
mm,
Affleck's kids want to go somewhere, I'll smooth that out for them. I have a still photographer I work with every day, and I
mm,
oversee his or her work. And we pick the best, and we send them along to the studio every day. And I'm just basically their contact because they can't send a person from the studio. And since I worked at a studio before I did this,
mm,
I kind of was in an interesting spot because I knew what they needed, not only from the studio, but from the TV side, the radio side, the magazine side. I knew what everybody needed. So when I had people visit the set from those entities,
mm.
I knew what they needed to get their pieces. And that was another big part of the job. So I loved it, and it was paid vacation. Come on.
And
I mean, I have to, analogize that,
mm,
it's kind of like a person that wants to become a chef. They have to start by sweeping the floors and then learning each step along the way. And the way your life took you on your path, it gave you all the experiences for you then to observe later on and put it all together in
mm.
such a fair-minded way that everyone could trust.
That's a very good way to put it. And as Cher has once said, success is 90% showing up.
Yeah, yeah, and
And
working on
yeah,
everything, Dave. Like you were saying, that you did all those things that led you to this place, and maybe there wasn't necessarily always a plan there, but you had some idea of where you wanted to go or what was working and what wasn't, and it all sort of came together so that you could do this job where you had all that experience to draw on.
Well, I
Yeah.
think it's fascinating. All of us can look back and see there are certain things that had to happen in the order they happened for us to be successful and have our lives go the way they went. Whether it was the people you met or married or the jobs you had. But I look back, and if this one certain person hadn't hired me here, I wouldn't have gone here. It's kismet, right?
Well, yes, and again, going back to really having such a beautiful foundation that you could cultivate your intuition and make the right decisions all along the way. If there was a misstep or a little hiccup, it sounds like that they weren't major. It sounded like you had a really strong foundation to make great, have wonderful, I'm going to call it delicious discernment, in knowing what to do with your life each time you made a move from here to there and then bingo.
Well,
Very,
yeah, you make the most of it, and also you learn from people that you work with. And when I started working on films, for example, and you'll probably echo this, I'd study the people that I most admired and the way they treated people, and it was almost always someone who treated people well. And I learned from that, each step of the way. I want to be like Hugh Jackman. I want to be like Dwayne Johnson. I want to be like Kate Winslet, three of my favorites. You see that yelling and screaming on a movie set or on a shindig soundstage, it's just somebody who is not confident in themselves.
yeah, it's what I call a distorted ego.
Yes, and I'm sure. I mean, in the music business, and I believe that your first marriage was to someone who was deeply in the music business, correct?
Oh, definitely. Although, I also believe in karma. So, whatever we come in to experience is who we are. And of course we have choices along the way, but yeah, I was around a lot of masters all along the way, actually, from the beginning, I would say. As a child, I was always meeting masters in their field, and that resonates with you. You think about people that receive, and egotistically they know that it's not coming from them, it's coming through them, and they have to, as you say, show up to document it. And just like going back to Mozart, he had to be there as a child, to receive this beautiful music, and be ready to document it and then, share it with the world. So yes. I was around a lot of incredible masters, and, who, just like you had your experience with the top, and so did I.
Well, I had a question for you here, Donna. I want to know how you became an actor after being, because not every singer can become an actor, but you became an unbelievably versatile actress. Was it just something that was in you, or did you develop it, or is it a combination?
That's really, it's kind of perplexing because I never thought of myself as an actor. It was all about performing and adapting myself, and the first real role that I had was on Dr. Kildare, and and literally, literally, I had Mark Daniels as a director, and the night before I was studying the script, and of course the line that I was supposed to say had a parenthesis, direction, and then she cries, and I couldn't sleep all night, so of course I was all adrenaline out. And when I showed up for the reading, and saw that instruction on the script page, the tears, all they could do, he and I've forgotten, I think it was Gene Roddenberry or somebody like that, who was the producer, all they could do was give me Kleenex because I couldn't stop crying. And then they had to hire me right on the spot to, stop me. I mean, I don't know, 18 or 19 years old, and I still had to be chaperoned. And, and of course, my adopted father was always there as my manager. So I
Now, see,
wasn't alone.
that was my other question. Who was your protector?
To tell you the truth, it's quite complicated. It was a real role reversal. When I was 7 years old, and I've told the story from my memoir, I was sat down for my first business meeting with my mother and my so-called father, who was not my biological father. And they put it to me that they thought that I could be the breadwinner in the family. And what choice do I want to work in a five and dime and be a nobody, or do I want to be somebody? And if so, they would figure out how to buy some singing lessons for me, and I would start performing and working. And literally I sat there, and all I could do was shake my head yes, because I just wanted to feel like I belonged and had a home. And I was made to feel so insecure in that moment, but it somehow, I don't know if it was through God or spirit or my angels or whatever, it clicked in, and my parents became literally like the children, and I became the adult. And it was that way until I retired.
Oh my. I had no idea. That's an amazing story. I can't believe that. You're an old soul. You have to be.
An ageless old soul.
I think so. I think to navigate that as a child.
Well, I just feel. I remember. I don't know if I ever shared this with you, Adam, but I share it with both of you now. I just recall, at such an early age, I think I was 3, that I was put in a situation where I was the only child, and it was just full of adults, and they were all drinking. Not like, alcoholic, just partying. And I didn't like the smell of the alcohol, but I entered the room they were in with this feeling, that I love life. I love life. And I had this juxtapositioning of feeling like I didn't belong, because I was not given the truth about, my biological father. And so I always had a feeling I didn't belong, but I also knew I loved life. And so I've always had that vertical connection with spirit. Nobody taught me. I just had it. And I have it. That's how I live. And it has nothing to do with religion or any kind of structure. It's just a connection that I have with life and love. And yes, I've gone off the rails sometimes, because I guess we all do. And then you just have to face the consequences. But, loving life is something that you do come in with. And so I guess that's what helped me with the burden that was kind of put onto me, in a way that I could serve. I just felt like I could serve them, and I could serve whatever came my way, because that's just the way it happened, just like with you.
Amazing. Did you have an influential agent or manager that?
Well, my adopted father, the man that, I called Dad, was my manager. He was actually kind of like your mother was an artist. He was an animator, and worked at all the studios. He had his issues, and there are adult bodies all over this planet that look like they're adults, but they're still functioning as very small children. I feel so much empathy, because of whatever I've been through, and the people that I've touched, and some I've hurt along the way because I've been hurt. And, there's sometimes there's forgiveness, sometimes there isn't, sometimes there's a stigma, and it just gives me the ability to empathize, but also observe the dysfunction in so many, too many people on this planet. And I do agree with you, and I'm in alignment with you, David, and my dear Dr. Adam, I love so much, that we are coming to a threshold where we're crossing over into more of a unanimity, an equanimity that, you know, we're all going to wake up to, and it's going to happen really fast.
I agree. I totally agree with this. And I don't tell many people because, you know, they'll look at me like, huh? But I think it's obvious and very simple that that has to happen. And it'll kind of shake all of these loose apples from our trees. And we can maybe be a lot more clear about what life is before it's over. You know, I mean, this planet, we don't own this planet. It owns us. We're tenants. Come on.
Yep.
We've only been here a short amount of time.
We are shepherds of this planet that have been very distorted, you know, but that's our lesson. And maybe in the future it'll be a blink. But anyway, yes, it's inevitable that we're reaching this threshold. And I just want to encourage all of our listeners that have the courage to stay steady on your path and live life the way that this beautiful man, David Linck, is explaining how his life has gone along. And even if your life has been traumatic or whatever things that have happened to you, you can take one little experience and expand on it and emphasize that. And let go, try and let go, even a little bit or a little bit each day, let go of the past that you may be holding on to and creates an emotional paralysis, and allow yourself to experience some freedom so that you can expand into the new earth consciousness.
And sometimes it'll be very easy to do. We put up way too many barriers in front of ourselves when all you have to be is direct and honest with yourself and the person next to you. It's the barriers are gone.
And also be confident, you know, in what you're saying. Don't just say anything and expect people to believe you. You got to back it up.
Well, right. And I think some people have lost the ability to discern that in others.
Well, because there's been such a systematic disempowering through, you know, through our political and religious and whatever, you know, institutions that, you know, have served us in some ways, but have been more too authoritarian in many other ways. So, you know, I'm just spouting off.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, and I think the challenge for people today, and particularly young people perhaps, is not necessarily having to know things the way we were taught in the past of you learned facts, say, at school. Although that's still important, but you can find those facts in all sorts of places now. It's a lot more accessible. But what we're taught, that idea of discernment, that being able to discern what is truth and what is not truthful, what can I trust and what can't I trust? That's what I think kids and young people need to learn now, is that it's not so much about knowing facts anymore because they can find them, but the ability to discern. And that's a difficult one when there are so many of these structures or powers that kind of try to obscure that for their own purposes.
When we grew up, we had Walter Cronkite and Dan Rather, and we had a united media. And now the cynicism that has snuck into certain parts of the media, that if you only watching that channel, you know what I mean, then that's what you think the world's about. And that's what you think that, you know, as Kellyanne Conrad said, oh, we have alternative facts.
It's not a fact.
So not to get political, but do the homework and discern what is truth and follow it. And don't be stupid about it, and don't be fearful, because I think that they use
fear. I think that's the word.
Fear short-circuits it all. Yeah,
that is the great disenabler.
Yep, absolutely.
Yep. I mean, it goes back to the, you know, what happened in Germany in World War II. Basically, it's all based on fear. And that's when, you know, there can be control. If there's no fear, then, you know, you have the courage to go in and see your truth and feel your truth and be able to speak your truth under any circumstance, whatever risk you have to take.
TriStar Pictures presents
Well, this is it. You're finally rid of me.
Sally Field,
I think you'll be back every now and then.
Dolly Parton,
How's your family?
Louis brought his girlfriend home, and the nicest thing I can say about her is all of her tattoos are spelled correctly.
I miss Weezer.
Oh, leave me alone.
Shirley MacLaine,
I'm not crazy, Malin. I've just been in a very bad mood for 40 years.
Daryl Hannah,
Miss Trudy, I swear to you that my personal tragedy will not interfere with my ability to do good hair.
Olympia Dukakis,
Looks like two pigs fighting under a blanket.
Julia Roberts,
I'm gonna make you very happy.
I want a child of my own. Your poor body has been through so much. Why would you deliberately do this to yourself?
Diabetics have healthy babies all the time.
You are special, Shelby.
time has made them close. Life
She's gonna have a baby. Go get a doctor.
has made them friends. Steel Magnolias, the funniest movie that will ever make you cry.
I thought what we would do is just some of the people you've spoken about and some of the movies. Why don't you give us a bit of a summary or a bit of a précis of just some of the memorable ones? I mean, looking at your resume, there's stuff like 3 Men and a Baby, Steel Magnolias, The Bodyguard, Jumanji, Brokeback Mountain, and it goes on, and probably a lot to distill 30 years of work. But tell us some memorable experiences or some challenging ones, or, you know, people you've enjoyed working with. Yeah.
Well, I think the most challenging one and the richest one was Mississippi Burning, because we shot as Alan Parker directing, God bless his soul, Gene Hackman and Willem Dafoe's first big movie. He became one of my best friends in the business as an actor. You know, we were called in our hotel rooms by the KKK telling us they were going to kill us the next day.
Wow.
And I don't mean once. I mean, throughout the movie, your phone would ring in your hotel and you'd answer the phone and you'd hear this voice. So that was a rich experience because we shot it right there. We shot it right there and right in front of everybody. And it's like, we're doing this movie because it's true. You know, don't cover up things like they're trying to do now in schools, covering up the history of the United States. No, this is what happened, so it won't happen again. And I did another film along the same way with the same producer, Fred Zolo, who's married to Barbara Broccoli of James Bond producing fame. And Fred's a big-time, wonderful Broadway producer on his own and has done several other movies. Anyway, he also did, I also did with him Ghost of Mississippi, which was about the murder of Medgar Evers.
With Alec Baldwin and Whoopi.
Alec Baldwin and Whoopi and James Woods, who got nominated for an Oscar. We shot that right at Medgar Evers' home where he was shot. We shot it right there. Rob Reiner directing. We shot it in that town. And luckily, this was in 96. Mississippi Burning was 88. Now, by 96, I wasn't getting that phone call.
Wow. Yeah.
Anymore.
Yeah.
Things had changed. But I got to know the Evers family. And, you know, Myrlie Evers became the head of the NAACP. Her kids are in the movie. Martin Luther King's daughter's in the movie. I got to know the King family. You know,
amazing.
Donna, I'm sure this happened to you. You do a project, but you meet somebody through that project that you never thought you'd meet and become friends with. And there you are with somebody you never dreamed you'd be with, right?
I'm blown away by your experiences.
They're very rich. That was very rich for me. I also did the first Steel Magnolias.
Fantastic.
With that cast, and I had the time of my life with Shirley MacLaine.
Well, she had the time of her several lives with you, I'm sure.
You know what? She's very cool about that. She's very down to earth, actually. And she and I got off talking about, you know, alien contact and other worlds and souls. And I mean, she and I we were right on the same wavelength. She come into my room. We were shooting the interiors at the university there in Natchitoches, Louisiana, and all of our offices were the offices of the coaches of the women's gym because they were gone for the summer, so we had their offices. And my office was between Ray Stark, the producer, and Herb Ross, the director. And here's Lee Radziwill running around my hallway.
Oh,
She was married to Herb Ross. And Shirley MacLaine would come into my office once in a while, and she'd plop down and say, well, what's in the New York Times? And I'd always have it for her.
That's right.
And here's the funny thing, you guys. I'd be saying something like, well, in Australia, this guy's doing this or that, and the prime minister says this. She goes, oh, I dated it. She says, oh, I dated that guy.
She did. I remember that, yes.
She was quite a woman, and guys, she was 53 when I worked with her, and what's age? It's nothing.
Exactly. That's exactly it. And just thinking about that cast, Dolly Parton, Sally Field, Olympia Dukakis, who else was in there? Daryl Hannah, Julia Roberts. Incredible.
Oh, very good. Adam, way to go.
I'm a big fan of Steel Magnolias, I have to say.
Well, Bobby Harling, who wrote it, became a friend of mine. He wrote that as therapy because of the death of his sister.
Yeah.
And he wrote it. He wrote it as a straight play. And when they mounted the play for the very first time, it got laughs. And he thought, this is a comedy. And so he rewrote it as a comedy. And there it is.
Tremendous.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Talking about listening to your heart. Oh.
Right. And Bobby went on to become a very successful screenwriter, by the way. He did Evening Star with Shirley, and he did Soap Dish with Sally.
Oh, great! Yeah.
Sally Field, and but what a rich little stew, you guys, to be in this little town. By the way, Natchez, Louisiana, goes back to 1540.
Mm-hmm.
It was where the Spanish landed when they were coming up the river. And they made a settlement there in 1540. So it has a lot of ghosts. And
imagine.
It was funny. I'd be shopping in the Piggly Wiggly on Saturday. And there's Sally, and there's Daryl Hannah, and who was with Jackson Browne at the time, and breaking up with Jackson Browne. So when you see Daryl Hannah's performance, she's very unhappy.
She's going through a breakup.
She's going through her breakup. Now, guys, I did Brokeback Mountain. Both of the young men in that wonderful movie that should have been Best Picture of the Year if people had any guts to vote for a film about the gay experience. They both of those young men were going through breakups. And at the same time, Heath Ledger, God bless him, fell in love with Michelle Williams. During shooting, and so his soul was being healed during the movie.
Beautiful.
Because he had broken up with Naomi Watts from Australia. And at the same time, Jake Gyllenhaal, who I'd worked with when he was 12 in City Slickers.
Oh, wow.
Was breaking up with Kirsten Dunst, who I worked with in Jumanji. And Michelle Williams I worked with when she was 12 in Feces, so you never know the 12-year-olds.
Well, exactly.
You never know when the gun's loaded.
Now, Michelle Williams, I have to say, I'm not a big fan of biopics, but when she played Marilyn and Gwen Verdon, I mean, it's so difficult to try to become, one of these mega personalities, iconic people, and she was able to do it.
I love that TV production with Gwen Vernon and Fosse. It was fabulous.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Interesting you point that out. I thought she was seamless.
It truly, because I'm a huge damn Yankees fan. I mean, Gwen Verdon. Oh my God.
God, so am I.
We have a lot in common.
Don, I used to watch Damn Yankees as a kid every day on $1 Million Movie on Channel 9.
Well, you've got to have heart.
That's right. Miles and miles and miles of heart. I just love all the songs, and the performances, and Gene Stapleton's in there.
Oh my gosh, whatever Lola wants. Oh, I love that. I love Damn Yankees. Hey, everybody, give it a chance. Get your popcorn out and your baseball hat and watch Damn Yankees. I love that movie.
And Ray Walton steals the show.
Oh,
Yeah, Ray
oh my
Walston.
God.
Perfect.
Oh,
You know, I went to one thing
there
about
are cannibals munching on
a
missionary
missionary
luncheon.
luncheon. She knows this. I went to, living in Hollywood afforded me, especially when I was younger, a lot of chances to meet a lot of fantastic people. I met and interviewed James Stewart, John Wayne, Bob Hope, all of them. As many as I put my hands to. But also my twin brother and I, he was also in town producing and doing his thing. We would go to whatever was at the Hollywood Egyptian, the Film Society stuff, movies where people who were in the movie would appear after the film and
The
talk
American
about it.
Cinematheque, yes.
The American Cinematheque and the Directors Guild and the
That's
Academy.
right.
And one time at the Academy, they had the whole cast of Damn Yankees.
Oh.
Oh, wow.
And there they all were, all the way down to Ray Allen, who played the female reporter.
Oh, oh my gosh, how funny. Yeah, she was too curious about Joe. It's like, who are you?
That's right. There's no record of a, Joe Hardy. And
yeah.
But I have right here in my basement, where I have a lot of my Hollywood stuff, I have a signed album from that night from everybody.
Oh.
Gwen Verdon, Ray Walston, Ray Allen, Tab Hunter, who was a beautiful.
Oh my God, yes.
Donna, you must have known him, right?
I did not know him, sweetheart, but I do honor him and respect him. And sorry, he's one of our angels now.
I know. God bless him. I want to ask you a question, Donna, about. I want to take you back to your American International days, where you were working on films that sometimes they would have Buster Keaton in that film, or Keenan Wynn in that film. I mean, were you able to ever chat up any of these older actors that you knew and just to say hello? And
I was constantly on the set with them, and of course they would be, within arm's length. My life was surrounded by a Dr. Pepper representative, from Dallas, from the main office, always keeping an eye on me, and my adopted father managing me would keep me on a very short leash. And so I was very, very, not isolated, but I was kind of restricted from socializing. And everyone knew that Dr. Pepper was one of the sponsors. And so here I am, their chosen one to expand the business through the commercials and reach the teenage audience. And I'll tell you, which I've told this story before, the way that American International found me was through Dr. Pepper, because the Grant Advertising Agency out of Chicago was representing Dr. Pepper. And the CEO was also a screenplay writer who co-wrote Muscle Beach Party.
Robert
Who
Dillon.
was that? Do you remember the name?
Robert Dillon.
Oh my.
And so I was put in as product placement. And then when the musical director, I can't remember his last name, but Al Sims, thank you, Adam, knew that he heard my commercials. And so he introduced me to Dick Dale, and he said, you're going to do a duet with him on a Brian Wilson song. And so that's how that whole thing started. So everybody knew on the set that, first of all, there was a representative from the headquarters of Dr. Pepper there, and that I was there, what do you call that? Their source of sponsorship. And so I was kept just like what do you call that? 6 degrees of separation. I was about 3 degrees of separation from everyone. And the only one that I really ever had conversation with was Annette, because she and I knew each other from before, and so we had that in common. It was a kind of a unique situation where, again, I could walk by Stevie Wonder when he was like 12 years old. I could walk by his dressing room and see him working on his homework, and I was around everyone. And I was so thankful that Don Rickles never picked on me, because he couldn't. Yeah, he couldn't, because again, I had this protective bubble around me, but he never held back, doing his shtick with everybody.
Yeah.
but I was the only one that was spared. So, but I do believe, in behalf of the Beach Party movies, that, the whole idea of the surfing phenomenon that is so pervasive today. And of course, many, many people who have never experienced the ocean was given that experience vicariously. So,
Right.
yes, it was fun. Yes. But I think it really showcased, gave you a kind of an insight to the future of a sport that is so much more than a sport.
And I think it also it put a nation's focus on Southern California in a way in which never,
Malibu. Oh God, yes.
kids,
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm a humble man named Jack Good. I'm also the producer of Shindig. I thought it might amuse you to know that the Beatles are coming!
And here you are in the middle of the maelstrom, and then Shindig kicks in, right? And there's TV.
Indeed, yes. And of course, my golden ticket was producer Jack Good, and who was, again, a very spiritually based person, and treated me with the utmost respect and gave me autonomy. He gave me my own dressing room. He gave me a fashion budget, and allowed me not to choose songs myself, but to give me the choice of songs. And that was a whole new experience for me.
Oh, did you choose those songs like Goldfinger and things like that?
Well, they would present it to me, and they wouldn't say it's mandatory. Here's this is what you're doing. They would say, do you like it? Let's try it out. And when it was compatible, then we went forward.
I saw you do a fantastic version of Shakin' All Over, which I first heard on the Who's album, Live at Leeds. But you did an unbelievable version of that.
So I'll tell you a funny story. And are you familiar with Jack White?
Of the White Stripes?
Yes.
Yes, of course.
Okay. So my son, who is a drummer, was working with Jack White on the Wanda Jackson.
Yeah, Wanda Jackson. Yeah.
Yeah. And he did a kind of a revival album with her and featured Shakin' All Over. So in Los Angeles, I went to a concert with my son provided me with, and I was up in the loge area where, the performers and people are kind of away from the audience. And after the show, my son was standing next to me, and Jack White comes up and, standing with Joey, and he sees me. He comes over to me and he says, "You did Shakin' All Over on Shindig, didn't you?" And that was he went on YouTube. I know. And then my son was like standing right behind my shoulder, and Jack White just gave me a juicy kiss right on the lips, and my son was like, "What are you doing?" And then as he was leaving, he took one step away and he came back for a second.
Oh, that bastard! I worked with him.
No, I want to work with him after that. Are you kidding?
Oh,
yes,
okay.
Please, Jack.
All right. I did a movie that Jack played Elvis in for laughs. It was called Walk Hard with John C. Reilly. It was a takeoff on a biopic on a fictional icon, a musical icon. It's played for laughs. It has Jenna Fisher in it, and Jack White plays Elvis, and he's very funny. Very funny.
Oh, I have to look at that.
About that, yeah.
Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story. Believe me.
Oh, that's so funny. I have seen it, but I didn't remember that Jack White was in it. He's all over the place. I mean, my favorite album that he's done with Norah Jones is Rome. But if you like, what's his name, Ennio Morricone?
Yeah.
If you like that type of music, listen to Rome if you've never heard it, because it's that music take, and Jack White and Norah Jones are on the album.
Take a look, calling away.
my brother and I both loved and played a lot of music from Neil Finn and Crowded House.
Oh, okay.
Who are wonderful, they're Australian / New Zealand band. And my wife and I just saw Crowded House last week.
Oh, great. Yeah, we saw them a few years ago. Well, we saw him when he was doing some of his solo stuff with his wife. But yeah.
But Donna, that's my gift to you. Among
Thank
many,
you,
I'd like to give you this conversation is your discovery of Crowded House and the work of Neil Finn, who people call the Paul McCartney of New Zealand.
Oh, man. Okay.
But Crowded House is so beautiful. The first album especially. There's a song called Don't Dream It's Over.
Yes, yep.
Oh, just start with that. Just YouTube that. Don't Dream It's Over.
Love that.
By Crowded House, and it will transport you.
Thank you.
There is freedom within, there is freedom without. Try to catch the deluge in a paper cup. There's a battle ahead, many battles are lost, but you'll never see the end of the road while you're traveling with me. Hey now, don't dream it's over. Hey now, when the world comes in, well, they come, through the war between us, we know they won't win. Now I'm towing my car, there's a hole in the roof, my possessions causing me suspicion, but there's no proof. In the paper today, tales of war in every ways, but you turn right over to the TV page. Hey now, don't dream it's over. Hey now, when the world comes in, well, they come, through the war between us, we know they won't win.
In fact, you might want to even sing that song.
Well, thank you. I'm always up for learning.
That's why you're Donna Loren. You're open.
Hey,
you're
David.
You're open to new things.
My cup runneth over.
Well, you know what? You put your cup out there, and some rain will fall in it, right?
Or maybe a thimble of wine. You never know.
You got to put the thimble out. If you don't put the thimble out there, you get no
put
wine.
the thimble out. Wait a minute. Do you have a lisp? Or... Hey, you guys, this has just been fabulous. Honestly, we could go on and on.
I know.
You are someone that we can grow with and come back to at some interval, because inspiration is the underlying topic of this conversation. And many people who will understand, the message that comes through among all of the jibber jab, and all of the information, there's a lot of wisdom that we're expressing and that we're sharing. And we love our community of Love's a Secret Weapon, because that's what it is. It is a secret weapon, and love is my favorite 4-letter word.
There we go. Hey, all you need is, right?
Thank you, David.
Beatles. Same here. So nice to talk with you.
Many, many blessings to you and all of your beloveds.
He's the man with the Midas of death from Mr. Goldfinger. Pretty girl, beware of his heart of gold. This heart is cold. Golden words he will pour in your ear, but his lies can't disguise what you fear. For a golden girl knows when he's kissed her, it's the kiss of death from Mr. Goldfinger.